Hi everyone, in this video we are going to talk about OpenID Connect protocol and we will implement this protocol in Authorization Server. This video is divided into two parts. In the first part we will go over some theory and some terminologies, and in the second part we will actually implement it in the Authorization Server. So let's see what is OpenID Connect protocol. OpenID Connect protocol is an identity layer on top of Auth 2, and it provides us the information about the user. Now, why do we need OpenID? Because in Auth 2, we don't get any user information. All we get it what the user can and cannot do. But in most of the cases, client needs to know or clients needs to display the user's information like their name, email, their address, their profile information, and few more things. Now there are two ways to implement OpenID Connect protocol. First is ID token and the another is user info endpoint. And most of the times authorization servers you implement both of these methods. User info endpoint looks something like this. So this URL can be found in authorization servers documentation. And while sending request to this endpoint, we need to send authorization header with the access token. So based on the access token, the authorization server will send us back the user's information, which will include few things like name, email, profile picture, and few more things. The second thing is ID tokens. So ID tokens are the core of OpenID Connect, and ID tokens are returned in token response along with access tokens. The audience for ID tokens is auth to client, not the auth to resource server, because it is the client who needs to know what information is there in the ID tokens so that they can display that information to the user. And ID tokens are always JSON Web Tokens or JWT, but we have seen that access tokens can be JWT or opaque, but ID tokens are always JWT. And ID tokens may be signed using private key of the authorization server, but it is not necessary because client does not do any validation of the ID token. It just extract the information out of these tokens. Now, the OpenID scope is required in order to generate the ID token. So if a client needs to get the ID token, then it needs to send the OpenID scope as well, along with all other scopes. Now let's see what are the contents in the ID token. The first is issuer of the token, which will be authorization server itself. The second is audience. So we have already seen that the ID token is intended to be used by the client. So audience will be client ID. Then we have subject, which is unique identifier of the user who is logged in or who authorized the application. So generally subject will be username or user ID or something like that. Then we have IAT, which is issued at timestamp. So when we created this ID token or when we issued the ID token to the client. Then we have EXP, that means expired timestamp. Then we have auth time, which is the last login timestamp of the user. Generally, this information is taken from the user's new database where we store the information when the user logged in, when the user logged out, and things like that. So those were the required contents of the ID token. So these tokens must present in the ID token, but there are other information about the user, because if you see, we are not providing any additional information here about the user. We are only providing the subject, which is present in the access token itself. So the real use of ID token is to provide some additional content, which are email. So now authorization server can document what scopes the client needs to send to get what information. So for example, authorization server can say that in order to get the user's email in the ID token, you need to provide a scope equal to email. And in order to get the display name of the user, you need to provide a scope equal to profile. And if his scope is picture, then we will send the profile picture URL as well. So these scopes and their definition is documented in the authorization server's documentation. So enough of the theory. Now let's start coding. So this is the Auth2 repository. I have expanded authorization server here. Now, first of all, we need to think where we need to store the user's information. Now there are two things. Either we can store the user's email, display name, their profile picture, URL, everything in user class, but that is not a good practice. Generally, user class should have only the information which is required the user to log in. But the email, their name, their profile picture, these are not information required for login. These are considered as profile. So I will create a new Java class here and I will give it a name user profile, and let's make it a record. And it will take, first will be username, the second will be email, the third will be first name, and the fourth will be last name. So we have created a record user profile. Now we need a way to save and get the user profile from the database. So for that we can create a new user profile repository, but I will just use user repository here. So let's create a list of user profiles, and in the constructor I will initialize it. This dot profile is equal to new array list. And now let's create a method to save the profile. Public void save profile user profile, and I will just add it to the list. This dot profiles dot add profile. Now let's create a method to get the profile using username as well. Public user profile get profile by username, and we will get a string username. Now I will just iterate over the list. So this dot profiles dot stream dot filter profile, then I will just say objects dot equals profile dot username and username. The profile's username should be equal to the given username, and we just want the one, so I will just say find first, or else if we don't find any profile for the given user, then we will create a default profile here, but we will not save this profile in the database. So let's create the profile here, new user profile, and we need to give the username, which I will just use the given username. Email will be empty string, first name will be, let's say, username, and last name will be username. So this way we will return this user profile. So we have created these two methods here. Okay, now in the resources we have this data.sql file, so I will delete it because I noticed that whenever I run the authorization server, all the data from the database gets deleted. That was happening because of this line. So either I can comment out this line, but I will just delete this file. So I will delete this file, and now we are good. So we have created the user repository. Now let's go to this bootstrap class, which is inside authorization server application. Here we are creating a user. So apart from creating the user, we will create a user profile as well. This dot user repository dot save profile, and we need to create a new user profile. Now here username will be user1, and its email will be, let's say, johndoe at javarush.dev. First name John, last name Doe. So we have created profile for user1. Let's not create profile for user 2, 3, and 4. We could do that, but let's not do that. And okay, now we need a way to store the ID token as well. So sorry, not to store, to represent the ID token. So we can create a new class to represent the ID token. But since ID token will have information based on the scope, so if let's say email scope is not present, then we will not display the email. If display name is present or if profile is present, then we will display or we will add the display name to the ID token. So what I'm thinking is, let's create a map and store the ID token in that map only. So let's create a class to generate the ID token. I will create a Java class called ID token generator, and let's make it a service. Okay, so this is a service. And here, since we need the information of the user, so we need to get the profile from the user repository. So let's inject that here as well. Private final user repository, and I will just add it to constructor parameter. Now let's create the method to create the ID token. Public type will be map string object. The type of key will be string, but type of value can be anything. So it can be long, let's say for timestamp. It can be string for, let's say, name and URLs. So I will just keep it object, and we need to import it, and let's say generate token. Now we need few information here, so we will see what else we need. First of all, okay, so we need list of scope. So list of string scopes. Now first of all, we need to check whether we actually have the OpenID scope or not. So if scopes dot contains OpenID, so I will negate it here. So if scopes does not contain OpenID, then I will just return an empty map, collections dot empty map. But let's say I could return null as well here, but it's not a good practice to use null values. So I'm just returning an empty collection here. Now let's create a map string object. Let's call it token new hash map. Now we know that OpenID Connect is present, so we need to create an ID token. So we obviously need to put the required information. So if we see here, the required information is this. So first we need issuer. So let's put issuer here. Token dot put issuer. So issuer will be, let's say, HTTPS. So this will be like your authorization server's URL. You will not hard code it here, obviously. You will get it from properties or somewhere else, but I will just hard code it here for now. Let's say auth.javaros.dev, and I want to add the realm ID as well. Realms, and here I will add the realm ID. So in that case, we need to get the realm ID as well. After issuer, we need to add audience. Token.put audience. Audience will be client ID, so we need to get the client ID as well here. And I will put the client ID. Now we need the subject. So let's subject. This will be the username. So let's get the username as well. Subject will be username. So subject is unique identifier of the user, and in our authorization server, the username is unique identifier. But it depends on the authorization server. In some authorization servers, email is the unique identifier. In some authorization servers, user ID is the unique identifier. So it depends on the authorization server and implementation. Now we need IAT, which is issued at timestamp. So let's create that here. Long IAT will be system dot current time in millisecond. We are getting the current time. We will just put that here. Token dot put IAT, and then we need exp expiration time is term. That will be, let's say, the expire this ID token will expire after 2 hours. So IIT plus 2 into, generally ID tokens have lifetime more than 2 hours, but let's say 2 hours. 2 into 60. This is minute. This is second, and this is millisecond. Now after that we need auth time. So generally this information you will get from the database. So in the user or in the user profile, we generally store when the user last logged in. But here I'm just assuming that use whenever we are generating ID token, only that time user is logging in. So this can be IIT. Now we need the additional contents of the ID token. Now that will depend on the scopes. Now let's say we have defined two scopes in our system. The first is email, to get the email of the user. The another is profile, to get the display name of the user. So let's do that. We need to know if the email scope is in the scopes list or not. So scopes dot contains email. In that case, let's put email, and it will be user's email. But we need the user's profile in order to get the email. So we will do that here, where profile will be user repository dot get profile by username, and we will just provide the username here, and email will get from profile dot email. Then second scope is profile. So if scopes contain profile scope, in this case token dot put profile, sorry, display name, so display name, and that will be profile dot first name plus space profile dot last name. Now it depends on your authorization server, like which scope maps to which information of the user, but you need to clearly document these scopes and their mappings. After that we will just return the token. In the future, let's say we want to support one more information of the user. So let's say we want to support the profile picture URL, so we can include one more if condition. Now that is done, so we have created a class which can generate ID token given the username of the user. Let's use this in the token service. So I will go to token. So this ID token generator should also go inside token, because this also belongs to tokens. I will refactor it. Okay, so this is ID token generator. Now let's go to token service, and here inject ID token generator, private final ID token generator, and let's put that here. This dot ID token generator equal to ID token generator. Now we have ID token generator. So we are generating access token response here. Here we are generating access token. So here only I will generate a new ID token. So where ID token will be ID token generator dot generate token. We need to provide a few things. First is realm ID. We have realm ID in authorization code dot realm ID. Client ID, which is also inside authorization code. Then username, which is also inside authorization code. And then we need scopes, which is also inside authorization code. So we have created ID token. Now it's saying something required list, but we provided collection. Okay, so let's go here, and instead of list, let's make it collection. Okay, now we have ID token here. We have refresh token. Now we are generating access token response, and let's put the ID token as well here. So let's go this method, and here we will accept map string object ID token. Now we have a method which says encode access token. So what this method do is, this method takes the access token, it signs it using the private key, and then encode it in base64 URL format. We want to do the same with ID token as well. So it does not matter with whether we sign the ID token and encode it or directly encode it. But the client will not look at the signature or anything. It will just get the information. So let's just sign it and encode it using the same method. This method is an encode access token. So first of all, I would like to rename it. Go to refactor and rename. Instead of encoding access token, it encodes the objects, or let's say encode data. And instead of accepting access token, it can accept object. It can accept any object, and let's rename this variable as well. I will rename the variable to, let's say, data. So it is encoding the data. Now this data can be anything. It can be access token, it can be ID token, or it can be some any other thing. Because this JWT signer does not care about the type of the data. Now we have access token encoded. Now let's encode the ID token as well. So ID token encoded equal to encode data. Here we need to pass two things. First the data itself, which is ID token, then realm ID. So let's provide the realm ID. Now we have ID token encoded. Let's return that as well as part of response. ID token and ID token encoded. So that is it. So that is how we generate the ID token. We sign it, we encode it, and then we return it back along with the access token. Now that being said, so this should work. Now let's go to public client SPA. Assets. I will go to auth callback.js. Here we are fetching the access token. So what we are doing is we are getting the token response, and we are returning only the access token of the token response. So let's not do that. Let's return the whole token response from here. Now we are calling this method here. So instead of access token, what we will get is token response. Then we are saving this access token in the local storage. Instead of access token, it will be token response dot access token. Let's save the ID token as well. Local storage dot set item ID token token response dot ID token. Then we will know what is the ID token and things like that. I will just save it. Get has been saved. And okay, it's time to run the application. So I will go to authorization server. And first of all, I will spin up the database. Docker compose upd. Okay, so the database is running. Now let's get the list of realms or clients, whatever. Curl localhost. Authorization server is running on port 9000. Realms could not connect to server. Okay, because the server is not started. So I will just go to authorization server application. Start it. Okay, it is running. Let's send that request again. We have this rel. Now let's see the clients inside this rel. RAM is Java clients. So we have this client. Let's format it. We have this client which is not confidential client. Okay, that's good because we are going to test the public client, and this is the ID. Okay, so let's see whether the ID is correct or not. So if I go here, ID is this one. So let's just copy it and paste it here. This is the client ID. So this is a client ID, and I think everything is good. I will start up the client as well. Let's go to, sorry about that. Let's go to public client ASP directory. And in order to serve it, I will use that Python http.server. So Python 3 http.server and port is 5000. Okay, we are serving it. Now let's go there. I will open a new incognito window and we will go to 127.0.0.1 comma 5000. We could go to localhost 5000 as well. Both will work. I will open inspect, go to application, then local storage, and this one. In the local storage, currently we have code verifier and state. Just click on connect your account. Username, user one, password. This is the password for the user one. I'll click on sign in. So here we are saying read your contacts and edit your contacts, and these are the scopes. And this is for profile. Sorry, this is for OpenID. The second one email is for email scope. Then profile is for profile scope. That will be able to give us the display name of the user. Let's click on allow, and we have ID token here. We are not displaying it in the interface, but we have it here. I will just copy it and go to jwt.io. We are not using it, but what client will do is it will decode this. It will decode the ID token, and it will get all the information from it, and it can use them to display that in the users and dashboard or wherever it wants. Paste that here, and you can see the information inside ID token, the display name, the issuer, the email, and the subject. Everything is here. Okay. Now let's delete this. So I will just clear it, refresh it. I will log in here again using user 3. Click on sign in, click on allow, and this is the ID token. I will copy it and paste it here. Now here you can see the subject is user 3, email is empty because we have not created profile user for user 3, and in the default profile the email is empty. The display name is username space username. So we are getting it. So I will push this code to GitHub, and there I will add the functionality in the public client where it will decode the ID token and it will display what information is there in the ID token in the page. So that is it for this video. If you find it useful, then please like and share the video, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. I will see you in the next one. Until then, bye.